My best friend told me no man was good enough for me. Today I found out she secretly chased away all my exes. I'm a 29-year-old woman, and for most of my life I thought I had the kind of best friend people envy. Her name is Chloe, and she was there for everything: school, heartbreaks, even the time I had to move back in with my parents for a year. She always repeated the same mantra whenever I got hurt: no man deserves you. You're too good for them. I used to find it comforting, almost poetic, like she was the only one who truly saw my worth. But a few weeks ago, I learned the ugliest truth of all: Chloe wasn't protecting me. She was sabotaging me. It started with a random encounter. I was at a cafe downtown when I ran into James, a guy I dated briefly 3 years ago. He had been one of those rare ones: attentive, kind, genuinely funny. Our breakup never made sense to me. One day he just stopped texting back, then ghosted completely. I carried that wound for months. Seeing him again brought back all that confusion, but also curiosity. After some awkward small talk, I asked him directly, "Why did you disappear back then?" He hesitated, glanced at the table, and finally admitted, "Chloe told me you were still in love with your ex and that you didn't see me as more than a rebound. She said you were too nice to tell me yourself." I felt the blood drain from my face. Chloe? My best friend? I wanted to deny it, but then he added, "She said she was just trying to save me from heartbreak." She seemed so convincing. That night, I couldn't sleep. My mind started replaying every failed relationship I'd ever had, every guy who left abruptly, every time Chloe showed up right after with comfort and her signature line, "No man deserves you." I pulled out my old messages with another ex, Daniel, who had once told me out of nowhere that he couldn't handle my baggage. I remembered Chloe's smirk when I cried to her about it, the way she said, "See? They always prove me right." And that's when the suspicion grew into certainty. Chloe hadn't just been a shoulder to cry on, she had been the reason I was crying in the first place. I went home after seeing James with a knot in my stomach that wouldn't loosen. Every time I tried to breathe, I thought about his words. Chloe had gone behind my back, convinced him I wasn't serious, painted me as a liar who would hurt him. Suddenly, all those strange breakups that had never made sense lined up in my head like dominoes, toppling one after the other. I couldn't stop myself, I started digging. I opened old message threads with exes I hadn't spoken to in years. Mark, who broke up with me saying he wasn't ready for commitment. Ethan, who suddenly said he didn't see a future with me after months of making plans together. At the time, I blamed myself. I thought I was too intense, too naive, too hopeful. But now, rereading their words with this new lens, I noticed patterns. Phrases that sounded eerily similar. Things they could have only known if someone told them. Like Mark telling me, "You clearly have feelings for someone else, and I don't want to compete." Or Ethan saying, "I heard you still talk about your ex when you're not with me." Both were lies. And both sounded like Chloe's voice echoing through theirs. I tried to push away the thought, but it gnawed at me. Finally, I made the decision: I needed confirmation. The next day, I sent a message to Daniel, the one who accused me of having too much baggage. He hadn't replied to me in years, but to my surprise, he answered within minutes, "Hey. Long time. What's up?" I didn't waste time. I asked him straight, "Did Chloe ever talk to you when we were dating?" The typing bubbles appeared, then disappeared. It took him almost an hour before he finally wrote, "Look, she told me a lot of stuff. She said you were emotionally unstable, that you weren't over some guy, and that you'd only end up breaking me. She made it sound like she was protecting me from you." I didn't want to believe her, but she was so convincing, and she said she was your best friend, that she knew you better than anyone. So yeah. I believed her. I dropped my phone. My hands were shaking so badly I almost couldn't pick it back up. This wasn't paranoia anymore. It wasn't just a weird coincidence. Chloe had systematically destroyed every chance I had at love. The rage that rose in me was something I'd never felt before. My so-called best friend, the woman I trusted more than anyone, the one I confided in after every heartbreak, was the very person behind them all. I tried to remember the last time Chloe had been in a relationship herself. It had been years. She always had excuses: he was boring, he was just after one thing, men are trash. But now I started to wonder, had she stayed single on purpose? Was her entire identity wrapped around being my savior, the martyr best friend who protected me from heartbreak, even if she had to create the heartbreak herself? And the most terrifying thought was this: if she had lied to every man in my life, what else had she lied to me about? I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard Chloe's voice, her soft, comforting tone when she'd tell me, "You're better off without him." But now those words sounded poisonous, like daggers wrapped in silk. I kept pacing my room, replaying old memories with a new perspective, realizing how often she had been in the middle of things without me even noticing. When I finally looked at my phone, it was 3 a.m. and I had 15 unread messages from her. "Where are you? Why didn't you call back? Are you mad at me?" The timing made my skin crawl. It was as if she could sense I had started to connect the dots. By morning, I made a decision: I needed to confront her. Not with anger right away, but carefully. I needed her to slip. So I invited her over. When she walked in, she hugged me tightly like she always did, acting like nothing was wrong. She smelled like her usual vanilla perfume, the same one that had comforted me so many times before. But now, instead of warmth, it made me nauseous. We sat down with coffee. I forced a smile and asked her casually, "Do you ever wonder why all my relationships ended so badly?" She tilted her head, her blonde hair falling perfectly into place, and gave me that sympathetic smile I used to find reassuring. "Sweetie, I told you so many times, men don't deserve you. They're intimidated by your strength. That's why they always leave." Her words felt rehearsed, like a script she had told herself 100 times. I leaned in a little closer and said softly, "Funny. Because I ran into James yesterday. And he said you told him I was still in love with my ex." The smile froze on her face. For a split second, her eyes widened before she laughed it off. "James? Oh please, you know he always twisted things. Don't tell me you believe him." But I kept watching her, silent, letting the tension hang in the air. And then I said, "Daniel told me the same thing. Word for word. And Mark too." Her laughter died. She set her coffee cup down too quickly, and it spilled a little onto the table. She didn't even wipe it. She just stared at me with this blank expression I had never seen before. Cold. Calculating. Finally, she said, "If you knew how close you were to being destroyed by those men, you'd thank me. Every single one of them would have broken you." I did what I had to do. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "What you had to do? Chloe, you lied to them. You poisoned every relationship I had. You made me think I wasn't enough, when all this time it was you sabotaging me." Her voice cracked, but not with guilt, with anger. "Because you don't see it. You fall for anyone who smiles at you. You're too trusting, too naive. If I hadn't stepped in, one of them would have destroyed you for good. You should be grateful." I stood up, shaking, my heart pounding so loudly I could barely hear my own words. "Grateful? Chloe, you've stolen years of my life. You made me believe I was unlovable. You made me cry on your shoulder while you were the reason I was crying in the first place." She stood up too, suddenly towering over me, her eyes burning. And then she said something that chilled me to the bone. "You don't get it, do you? I'm the only one who will ever stay. Men come and go. Families break apart. But me? I've always been here. And I'll always be here, whether you like it or not." Her words echoed in my head like a threat. For the first time in years, I didn't see Chloe as my best friend, I saw her as my captor. And I realized, she had built my entire life like a cage, one breakup at a time. After Chloe's words, I stood frozen in my own living room, staring at the person I thought I knew better than anyone. For nearly 2 decades she had been my anchor, my confidant, the one I turned to when the rest of the world let me down. And now she stood in front of me, eyes blazing, practically admitting she had engineered every heartbreak of my adult life. I felt my throat tighten. "You've been lying to me, Chloe. About everything." She tilted her head and gave a half smile that made my stomach churn. "Not lying. Protecting. There's a difference." I couldn't take it anymore. I told her to leave. She didn't move. She just stared at me, arms crossed, as if I was the one being unreasonable. Finally, I raised my voice, something I rarely did. "Get out." That seemed to shake her. She grabbed her bag, muttered something under her breath that sounded like "you'll see," and slammed the door so hard the walls rattled. The silence afterward was deafening. For the first time in years, I was completely alone. And the irony struck me like a cruel joke. I used to fear losing Chloe, but now all I wanted was distance from her. Still, her words wouldn't leave me. "I'm the only one who will ever stay." Was it a threat? A promise? Or both? That night I started digging deeper. I scrolled back through years of social media posts, looking for connections I had never questioned before. And there it was, comments from Chloe under nearly every picture I had posted with an ex subtle digs that, at the time, seemed harmless. Under a photo of me and Mark at a concert, "You look tired, babe. Hope he's treating you right." On a picture of me and Ethan on a trip, "Didn't you say he reminds you of your ex? LOL. Even on my anniversary post with Daniel, "Crazy how fast you move on, girl. Don't get hurt again." Reading them now, I saw the manipulation woven between every word. Those weren't innocent jokes. They were seeds she had been planting publicly, right in front of me, for years. And I had been too blind to notice. The more I looked, the worse it got. I found private messages too, screenshots some exes had saved and sent back when things fell apart. Messages from Chloe, pretending to look out for them. She told James that I was still hung up on a toxic ex. She told Daniel I had mental health problems I was hiding. She even told Ethan that I was secretly flirting with other guys at work. Lies. All of it. My stomach churned as I realized how calculated this had been. She hadn't just ruined my relationships. She had built an entire narrative around me, that I was unstable, unfaithful, incapable of commitment. And because she was my best friend, people believed her. I couldn't keep it to myself. I called my mom, desperate for someone to tell me I wasn't crazy. But when I told her everything, there was a long pause on the other end of the line. Then she sighed and said, "Sweetheart. I'm not surprised." Those 3 words shattered me. My mom explained that years ago, Chloe had pulled her aside after one of my breakups. She told her I was too fragile, too reckless, and that I needed supervision. She framed herself as my protector, the one person keeping me from falling apart. My mom said she always thought Chloe was a little intense, but since she was so devoted, she didn't question it. That's when I realized, Chloe's obsession hadn't just infected my love life. It had infected my family's perception of me too. By the time I hung up, my head was spinning. I had lived in a prison built by Chloe's lies, and my own mother had unknowingly been a guard. And then came the final blow. I opened my phone and found a new message from Chloe. Just one line, "Don't forget, I know everything about you." My blood ran cold. This wasn't just a friend gone too far. This was someone who believed she owned me. I didn't sleep. Not a second. I sat on my couch with my phone clutched in my hand, staring at that last message from Chloe, "Don't forget, I know everything about you." It felt less like a warning and more like a chain being yanked tight around my neck. She did know everything. My childhood, my secrets, my worst mistakes, my insecurities. Every diary entry I'd ever confessed out loud, every late-night breakdown she'd listened to. She had a weaponized archive of my life. And now, after years of manipulation, I finally saw what it meant. Chloe had never been a friend. She had been collecting ammunition. The next morning, my phone started buzzing. First one message, then another, then another. Not from her, this time from people I hadn't spoken to in years. An old coworker. A distant cousin. Even my ex Daniel. Each message was some variation of the same thing. Why is Chloe telling everyone you're having a breakdown? My chest tightened. I opened social media, and there it was, Chloe's new post. A smiling selfie of her with the caption, "Prayers for my best friend. She's not doing well right now. Please be patient with her if she lashes out." Thousands of likes. Dozens of comments. People offering sympathy, some even tagging me in replies. It looked harmless on the surface, supportive, even, but I knew exactly what it was. She was rewriting the narrative, painting me as unstable before I even had a chance to speak. The comments made me sick. "You're such a good friend, Chloe. She's lucky to have you. Don't give up on her." Lucky? I felt trapped. I tried calling Chloe, my hands shaking, but she didn't answer. Minutes later, another post appeared. "When someone you love accuses you of being the enemy, it's heartbreaking, but I'll never stop protecting her, even from herself." That's when the rage finally broke through the fear. She wasn't just sabotaging me in private anymore, she was staging a public performance. Turning me into the villain, while she cast herself as the tragic heroine. I needed to take control back. So I called James, the ex I had run into at the cafe. My voice trembled as I asked him if he'd be willing to confirm, publicly, what Chloe had done to him. There was a pause, then a sigh. "Honestly, yeah. I should have spoken up years ago. She manipulated me too. If you want, I'll tell the truth." Hope flickered inside me for the first time in days. I messaged Daniel next. He hesitated, but eventually admitted he felt guilty about believing Chloe's lies. "If it helps you get free of her, I'll back you up," he said. One by one, the men she had driven away were willing to come forward. It was surreal, like gathering witnesses for a trial I didn't even know I was in. And then, the final crack appeared. My own cousin texted me, saying Chloe had been calling her nonstop. She forwarded me a voicemail, Chloe's voice, low and frantic. "Don't believe a word she says. She's paranoid, she's unstable, she's dangerous. Dangerous." That was the moment I knew Chloe wasn't going to stop at ruining my relationships. She was trying to erase me entirely, to make everyone see me as someone untrustworthy, broken, unlovable. But I wasn't the girl she thought she owned anymore. For the first time in my life, I had proof. Proof that she wasn't my savior, she was my saboteur. So I started planning. Quietly, carefully. If Chloe wanted to play this game in public, then I'd end it in public, and the opportunity came faster than I expected. The next weekend was my cousin's engagement party. Chloe was invited, of course, she always was. She'd probably already rehearsed the role she wanted to play, the loyal friend standing by my side. But this time I wasn't going to stay silent. This time everyone would hear the truth. The night of my cousin's engagement party, my heart hammered against my ribs like it was trying to escape. I stood in front of the mirror, adjusting my dress, but no amount of makeup could hide the tension in my face. This wasn't just a family celebration anymore, it was the battlefield where Chloe's lies were about to meet the truth. I walked in late on purpose, letting the crowd settle before I showed my face. People greeted me politely, some with that same pitying look I'd noticed online since Chloe's posts. Behind every "you look great" I heard the echo, "Poor thing, she's not doing well." And then I saw her. Chloe was already there, radiant in a silver dress, laughing like she owned the room. She spotted me, waved big, and crossed the floor in her usual theatrical style. She hugged me tight in front of everyone, her perfume suffocating, and said loudly, "I'm so glad you came. I didn't think you'd have the strength tonight." Gasps. Whispers. She was doing it again, painting me as fragile, broken. I smiled tightly and said nothing. Not yet. Dinner went on. People clinked glasses, made toasts, took photos. Chloe never left my side, her hand on my arm as if she were my keeper. Every time someone asked me how I was, she answered for me. "She's doing better. She's been struggling, but we'll get through it." Each word twisted the knife deeper. Finally, when the music softened and people gathered near the stage for speeches, I stepped forward. My voice shook at first, but I raised it enough for everyone to hear. "I'd like to say something." The room went quiet. Chloe smiled at me, that saccharine smile she used when she thought she was 3 moves ahead. "Of course, sweetie," she said, as if she was giving me permission. I took a breath. "Most of you know Chloe has been my best friend for years. She's been by my side through every breakup, every hard moment. People think she's loyal. But tonight, I need you to know the truth." A ripple of unease spread through the room. Chloe laughed nervously. "Oh, come on, don't do this." But I kept going. Every man I ever dated, James, Daniel, Ethan, Mark, they didn't leave because of me. They left because Chloe told them lies. She told James the first was in love with my ex. She told Daniel I was unstable. She told Ethan I was unfaithful. She pretended to protect me, but she was poisoning them against me from the start. Gasps. Murmurs. All eyes snapped to Chloe. Her face drained of color, then flushed bright red. She shook her head furiously. "That's insane. You're twisting everything. Why would I ever do that to you?" That was the cue. Right then, James stepped forward from the crowd. He hadn't come as a guest, he'd come because I asked him to. His voice was steady. "She's telling the truth. Chloe told me those things. She begged me to leave before she said I'd get hurt." Daniel's voice followed, cutting through the tension. "Same with me. She made me believe my own girlfriend was unstable. I trusted her because she was your best friend." The room erupted. People stared at Chloe in disbelief. Some shook their heads. My mother covered her mouth with her hand, her eyes wide with a realization she'd been avoiding for years. Chloe's mask cracked. She started shouting, her voice desperate, raw. "I did it to save you. None of them were good enough. They would have left you broken. I'm the only one who's ever been there for you." Her words echoed against the walls, and for the first time, everyone heard what I had been too blind to recognize. This wasn't friendship. It was obsession. Control. I swallowed hard, my hands trembling, but my voice came out clear. "No, Chloe. You weren't saving me. You were destroying me. You wanted me alone so you could be the only one left. That's not love. That's prison." Silence. People shifted uncomfortably. Some avoided looking at her. Others stared at me with sympathy, but also with respect, for finally saying it out loud. Chloe looked around, realizing she had no allies left. Her face twisted, tears streaming down as she whispered, "You'll regret this. You'll regret pushing me away." And then she stormed out, slamming the door behind her like she had so many times before. But this time, there was no coming back. The rest of the night passed in a blur. People came up to me, offering apologies, support, even shame for believing her lies for so long. My mom hugged me tighter than she had in years, whispering, "I'm so sorry. I should have seen it." But the truth is, I wasn't sure how to feel. Part of me was relieved, finally free of Chloe's invisible grip. Another part of me was hollow, grieving the years she had stolen. I realized I had no idea who I was without her shadow. As I left the party, the cold night air hit me like a slap. For the first time in my adult life, I was alone, truly alone. No Chloe watching, no lies twisting my reality. Just me, standing at the edge of something terrifying and uncertain. And I don't know if that makes me free, or completely lost.
Follow me for more stories.